This is a BMW M140i and it is the epitome of old school BMW. Rear wheel drive, straight six engine, available as a manual. Now if you're thinking about buying one of these, you've done yourself a favour clicking on this video, because I'm going to take you through all the common problems, show you everything that tends to go wrong, and also we'll get it out on the road for a rip and see how it drives by today's standards. Let's go. So first, let's talk about how this car fits into the BMW lineup and what it actually is. So if we rewind back to 2011, along came the second generation 1 Series. Now it wasn't until 2016 that they shoehorned in the B58 335 brake horsepower engine and made this little beast. Let's clear up this idea that the oil filters disintegrate, because what this is more often than not is bad fitment of the oil filter. So the oil filter actually lives down the back here, and what happens is, a lot of mechanics don't realise, but on the lid of the oil filter there's two little lugs. Now the intention of those lugs are, you take your new filter, you lock it into those lugs on the lid, and then you place the filter in. Now if you're not aware of that, what you might be tempted to do is just drop the new filter into the housing, and then as you put the lid back on, it starts to crush that filter. So more often than not, it's a fitment issue rather than a quality issue with these oil filters. So something else that can be really common on these engines is losing a little bit of coolant. Now that seems to be quite a big worry for a lot of people, and understandably so, as we found out when we rebuilt or crashed BMW M4, it's a pressurised system. So any coolant going missing, you would expect you're going to see it leaking out of the car. It's not that big a concern because the culprit is right here. It's the lid on the coolant bottle, and to confirm that, more often than not, you'll be able to look round the filler cap here and you'll see the dried in residue of the coolant leaking out. So usually, nothing to worry about. So the next problem is one that looks absolutely catastrophic, but again, it tends to be quite an easy fix. And what I'm referring to here is the PCV membrane. Now, what happens there is this either fails or gets a little tear in it, and the car has trouble regulating how much pressure it's pulling through the crankcase. Now the main symptom you're going to get of that is blowing tons of smoke, something that you're not going to miss when you view a car. The most important thing to mention here is, although it's an easy fix, you want to do it sooner rather than later. Probably going to get a bit of hate for saying this, but BMWs, oil leaks can sometimes come as standard, so just be vigilant. Shit, it didn't close. So yes, be vigilant. Check now before you go the test drive, and check when you return, just in case we get a savvy seller trying to pull the wool over your eyes and mopping up any mess before you've arrived. Now the final engine problem to refer to here is with the injectors. Now specifically this relates to the 2016 and 2017 model year cars. Now these can fail, and when they do, unfortunately they can fail in spectacular fashion, wherein they jam fully open and sometimes they can take the engine with it. You need to replace the entire engine. Now the good news is, from 2018 onwards, the injectors were superseded and replaced by BMW, and those later injectors, you can get hold of them and put them into an earlier car for peace of mind as well. So there was a couple updates to the M140i platform throughout its production run as well. BMW like to term these as LCI. It's an update to the rest of us. I'm going to add the main changes that happened on screen now. Now the only other thing you might want to be aware of mid-production run was a change to the exhaust system. This is when they added in the OPF filter. It's got a few different names as well, we can maybe add them at the bottom. But effectively it was a filter added to the exhaust from June 2018 onwards. And what you need to know is, if you plan on changing the exhaust out, you'll probably require a remap when you do so, if you buy one of the post-June 2018 cars. And here comes the sun. So speaking of exhausts, one thing that was really common when these cars were new were the exhaust valves in the standard back box starting to rattle or fail. And here comes a bloody plane. Pause. So yes, standard back boxes starting to rattle the exhaust valves. Now what happened there is, a lot of owners who had bought them new went back to BMW, understandably said, this ain't good enough, I want it replaced, which BMW then offered to replace like for like, give them another standard back box, and they went, hang on a minute, that same problem's just going to reoccur, isn't it? To which they admitted, yes, it probably is. So an awful lot of owners got a free upgrade to the M Performance back box. That's why there's so many of these on the market with M Performance back boxes fitted second hand. So another thing worth being aware of, and this is a great point to bring up with a seller, negotiate yourself a bit of money off, and it's to do with both the rear and the front lights. Water ingress can be quite bad, and unfortunately it does start to affect the light unit where it can start to flicker and such as well. Something else you'll notice also, M140i's never ever got fog lights, even although lesser models in the same range did. The reason for that is performance based, because it needs a charge cooler where this fog light would have been. Now, something else worth mentioning here as well, because of its placement, it gets a bit of abuse. Pretty prone to having rocks hurled at it because it's down low here. Later, 2018 onwards, M140i's got a bit of extra protection here, whereas these earlier ones, it really only had these fins. So check it all looks okay in there, and the charge cooler doesn't have substantial damage. So hopping into this interior here, one thing to be aware of is on models that had the frameless windows. Now, you're not going to notice this unless you're buying in winter, so it could be easily overlooked, but the window can sometimes freeze to the rubber. You know the way it has to drop in order to clear the door and allow you to get in? Well, it can freeze and then you can't get in. Believe me, climbing through your boot is going to get old after a couple of times. Thankfully, there is a little trick of the trade, and if you apply some of this stuff, I'll add the name of it below, you can stop the window from sticking to the rubber. You're welcome. So hopping into this interior, there's really not too much to tell you about. These things are holding up really well. Obviously, goes without saying, check the usual stuff. Check the AC's blown cold, have a play with the iDrive and so on. Now on the gearbox front, two options here. You can't really go wrong with either, by the way. It's really down to personal preference. First up, this brilliant 8-speed ZF gearbox. Tough as old boots, tend not to have any problems with these. Not a dual clutch, is an automatic, but a great gearbox nevertheless. Now if you're looking to extract every bit of that end of era old school BMW feel that this car provides, then chances are you might be interested in the 6-speed manual gearbox. Be aware, however, for every one manual on sale, there's about 10 or 11 automatics, so finding one, they're quite rare. Can be quite troublesome to try and find a good one. But overall, whatever one you choose, you're not going to be disappointed. Right, I think it's time to get this thing out on the road for a rip and see how it drives by today's standards.
Second gear starting that all the time as well, mate, because first gear's very, very apprehensive when it was on a first gear start.
Right.
So we part of the gearbox map, get it to start in second gear all the time now.
And you prefer that?
Much prefer it, aye, much prefer it. But you'll find out soon enough. If we do start and stop again, you will feel it. You'll be like, holy shit, you know what I mean? It will go, it will want to take off.
And you find it grips pretty good on days like this? So yes. A nice sunny day, hot tarmac.
Yes,
grips
the warmer the better, the warmer the tyres, aye, 100%. But seen winter not when it's only like 2-3 degrees constantly, wasting your time taking the car out. Even when you're just trying to take off, it's spinning, traction control light flashing. It's a car for days like this.
Have you driven an RS3?
I have
or
not.
Any of the fast Audis?
I've not driven an S3, RS3 or anything, but I would love to try it.
I mean, right away I would say, steering wise, there's a lot more going on in this than there is with the RS3s.
Right. I find that a lot as well. I find it's quite a hard car to keep in a straight line. It follows the camber a hell of a lot. I'm a big one-handed steerer, but it's easily come by, you know what I mean, if you use your two hands as you're supposed to kind of thing.
You can feel the feedback though, like
yes,
you can feel the road through it. The Audis are a bit numb. I find this has got, like, to say a bit more.
That's what stopped me from buying say a Golf R or an S3, was because I like adrenaline. I like getting scared, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The more scared I get, the more faster I want to go, and this is the car for that. Like with the S3s and Rs having 4-wheel drive, you're not going to get that.
There's definitely
you do get it, but you don't get it as much as a wheel drive.
Oh yeah, I mean quattro Audis, they're pretty planted.
And I get that for going round corners, but we need a wee bit of something in your life to scare you every now and again, and this does the job.
I feel like with this it's a little bit more, there's less between you and the car. If we're comparing it with like an RS3,
right, okay.
This feels a bit more, I don't know, like man and machine.
Aye,
there's less There's less cushioning, there's less
kind of raw kind of thing.
Yes.
And then you get the big long bonnet and that as well, you kind of squeeze in that B58 long bonneted car, but I get what you're saying with that, it's much more connected.
For sure, yeah.
Ultimate driving machine.
That's it, yeah.
Apparently.
So problem-wise, I think we actually missed something, didn't we? So the washer jets, you had a little tip for that as well, didn't you?
Aye.
So the washer jets, what do they do? Do they block up?
Clog up, and then it's a bit of faffle getting the arch liner and all that off. You're reeling that off to get to the pump. But I've heard the quickest way to deal with it is the Milton sterilising fluid for babies.
Right.
Either pour in the concentrate or stick one of the tablets in and leave it overnight and then empty it.
It's fairly random, isn't it? It's a random thing.
Crazy, absolutely crazy. Don't expect these kind of things to happen, but hey ho.
It's a quick rack as well, isn't it? Like one turn, lock to lock.
Yep.
Makes it feel quite lively.
Aye, make it easy to catch it when it all goes wrong.
Do you tend to drive it manual or auto?
A bit of both.
Yeah.
If I want to make noise, it's in sports mode and then manual.
Can we do a bit of that?
Aye, go for
Yeah.
it, mate.
Are we in sports mode?
We are now, so we get sports.
Sweet.
See sport and then sports plus,
Oh Christ.
which gives you a little bit more slip.
Right.
But it's up to you. How do you want to go?
Sport plus.
Sport plus.
Full send.
Right, you want to keep it in manual mode?
Go for it.
There you go, bud. There we go. There we go. It's the first gear launch this time.
Oh, it's still changing up.
Aye.
Is it one of these you're in manual but not fully in manual? If the car wants to change, it'll still.
Manual.
There we go. I mean, that's third, and you can feel it getting a little lively on the rear.
Lady, aye, it's all good fun.
Yeah. Guess you need to be ready to get some quick steering inputs in there, don't you? If it catches you out.
Definitely. Always need to keep your head in the game with this.
So have you got the adaptive suspension in this as well?
It's not in this, no.
Right. I think they made that standard from 2018 on,
Right.
the LCI 2, I believe.
I think so, because the LCI 2s have obviously got the newer dials and all that kind as well, the shadow editions and all that, but no adaptive suspension, no adaptive lights and anything like that, so.
Say though, we've probably got quite a good compromise in this, because it's soft enough that you could drive it day to day quite
100%.
happily, I'm sure.
It's like we went up to Lossiemouth a few weeks ago. I don't feel it, I don't know, it's different from a driver's perspective, but the wife and the kids, so that is very, very jumpy, you know what I mean?
They found it jumpy?
I found it towards the end of the drive of the road that I took going up through the forest to get to Lossiemouth that my back was starting to get a wee bit sore, you know what I mean? But it was a long drive, it was a 3.5 hour drive anyway, so.
I guess being a 140, it's predominantly going to be, it's a sports car.
Yes.
And it's a sports car first and foremost.
Yes, before it is a family car, yep.
Yeah.
100%, but no, there's no issues, 2 kids love it. Wife, not so much, because a lot of my attention goes to it, but nah, she loves driving it as well. I think she's just scared to, in case she cubs it or anything like that, you know what I mean?
Get some nice crackles there.
Aye, do sports mode, it's brilliant. The wee downshift as well, you'll hear it. Nice and noisy with that double res light.
Oh yeah, changes are so silky smooth.
That XHP, it makes night and day a difference. The gearbox is totally transformed, so that was a stage 3 XHP flash. Just the noise it makes, the quickness, the noise when it changes as well, you know what I mean? It's proper M territory stuff for an M light, if you want to call it that.
Yep. There's a question for you. Would you have liked one of these in manual?
It's a tough one. Yeah, I'd like a shot of a manual. I don't think... This is the first auto I've had, and for that reason, I love it. See, just getting to put it in, having the option in manual mode, I know it's different from a full manual gearbox, but that's enough for me. I'd love a shot of a manual, full manual, but I don't think I could have a manual as my car.
Right. Fair enough, yeah.
Because, it's like, you just focus on driving the thing, you know what I mean?
Well, you've already got quite a lot going on here.
You have.
Rear wheel drive, pretty high power, even today, with the bone dry, traction's as good as it's going to get.
Yes.
There's still quite a lot going on, there's a lot of steering input here.
Hell of a lot going on.
So to have one hand off, working a manual box as well.
Yes. You've got to, like I said to you back at the farm, you've got to think long game driving this.
Yes.
See, you go over go down a strange road and it's got a bump in it, halfway around a corner, you're a passenger.
Yeah, it's going to send you off.
But put it in a straight line, it'll just keep pulling. It'll pull like a train, that edge will just pull all day.
Oh. It's torquey enough that it gives you that kind of dizzy feel.
I'm not. This is the first time that I've been in this seat with somebody driving it like this since I got married, and aye, my neck's feeling it basically. You can't prepare for it like you do when you're driving.
How's your nerves feeling it?
Fine, mate. Full trust. I'll not get a shot of your car one day. But no, say all good. And that is how you don't get many miles per gallon, because that noise is too moanish.
Yeah.
In the pool and everything.
I think it's that mid-range, see, right around that 3,500.
Very linear as well.
It really comes on, yeah. It's got that same sort of characteristic that I feel the M4 had, where despite being turbocharged, it feels very linear, as you say. It's really linear.
It's a lovely, lovely delivery in the power. Just a shame that the back wheels light up so much, but small price to pay. Small price to pay.
So thank you so much for watching. If you have got value from this, please do hit the like button. That's how YouTube works. It will recommend this video to other prospective 140i buyers. So yeah, it helps them out as well. And also, if you tend to buy second hand, then please do consider subscribing to this channel, because we create these buyer's guides for literally every type of car. But yes, overall, thank you for watching. How do we rate the 140i on a reliability leaderboard then? Well, it's still a relatively new platform. That, coupled to the fact that it's got a well-known, reliable engine, means it's always going to score pretty high. And it's for that reason we give it an 8.5 out of 10 on the reliability leaderboard. Now, thank you once again. Please do hit that subscribe, and we'll see you for the next video.